All right, and welcome to Papua New Guinea in Gira. This is the Pacific, not too far from Australia, not too far from New Zealand. It is an incredible country. It is a wonderfully lush country. It has an amazing mountain range going through the center. But today we're going to be taking a look mostly at the Shock Ultra, which is this little teeny tiny plane here. Another Rotax 912 powered airplane. You can say it's very, very similar to some of the other aircraft we've seen. We've got, of course, this setup where we're basically going to be sitting behind each other. Let's take a look inside. First thing I notice is this is definitely an ultralight plane. I don't have many fancy digital displays with the exception of this little FS display here. Taking a look at my back seat. Again, normally I'm kind of surprised we're not flying from back there, but I assume we have some kind of ballast or something to kind of help us out in that regard. Go ahead and look forward. Not a lot as far as instrumentation goes. I'm pretty sure they stole that off a glider, but that's perfectly fine. I love the fact that trim is a button. So if I actually trim up and down, you can actually watch the little display change. That is just so old school. I'm not thrilled with the fact that it's very difficult to figure out what direction you're going, but hey, let's make the best of it. Apply full power. And this thing probably does not take much room to get airborne. And we're airborne. Okay, I didn't actually expect it to come up quite that fast. So first thing we want to do is we want to actually start backing up the throttle a little bit. I noticed that we almost instantaneously went into the yellow there. This little tiny Rotax engine, I would not want to damage it too much if I can help it. I'll make sure everything's all set as far as our flaps goes. And this thing has a really strong P-factor tendency. I can feel it drifting to the left every few moments. Back that throttle up just a teeny tiny bit. Okay, I think we're in good shape. Now, one thing I was saying a little bit earlier was just how incredibly lush this place is. Like, when you want to think about green and wet, like, this is just unbelievable as far as how that goes. I'm actually going to set up a little bit higher there so I can see better. It's just, it's an undiscovered country. I mean, there's definitely population centers, there's airports, there's major cities and everything along those lines here. But as far as everything else goes, this is just like a wonderful place to just kind of explore gently. As far as the aircraft goes, again, this is a Shock Ultra. This is the same people who made the Savage Cub. It probably shouldn't surprise you that the two structures are very, very similar. Obviously, the Savage is just a little bit more sophisticated, I'd argue. But this aircraft is definitely worthwhile because it is just so incredibly lightweight. And it's definitely a little bit more power. This thing gets you a 325 nautical mile range for anybody who's kind of curious and keeping track of stuff like that. Again, we're a Rotax 912 powered. And it's not too bad. I wouldn't do any acrobatics or anything with this if I can help it. Still got a little bit of turbulence from earlier, but nothing too bad. Go ahead and bring myself nice and gently over here to the right. Take a look. Very nice. I'm actually going to go ahead and take a look at what's by that river down there. Reduce power just a little bit. It's neat having a digital display for it. I actually appreciate that quite a bit there. Actually very interesting. I want to take a closer look at that real quick. This is a neat little thing. Okay, so we have 14 gallons in the wings. Fuel pressure looks pretty good. Everything else looks good. Okay, that's a neat little setup there. And you can see, obviously, my CHT as well as my EGT literally right in front of me, which is awesome. You can see I'm not working my engines too bad here. One thing I'd love to do, and hopefully we get to do this in Flight Simulator 2020, is be able to take a nice 4-engine, vintage airliner or something way up into those mountains over in that direction. But unfortunately, we're going to have to wait until somebody can do something like that. So anyway, let's have a little bit of fun with this aircraft. First thing I want to do is I see a lake, and there's nothing more dangerous than trying to pretend you're a float plane when you're really not a float plane. So let's go ahead and pretend we're a float plane, even though we're not really a float plane. That's interesting. I wonder what that's for. This is an interesting little switch. Oh, that would explain why I've never seen a 12-volt switch before, because it isn't a thing. Now, what I'm really curious is if you kill the power on this thing, let's go ahead and pull it into... Wow, it slows down fast. Yep, you can tell this is an ultralight airplane. As soon as you kill the power, it's like, I'm done flying. Thank you. Wait for the stall. Look at this. I'm a parachute. No. But still, that's a pretty impressive stall there. It reminds me a lot of a remote control airplane. Look at this great lake here. I'll go ahead and see. There's really like nothing here. This is so impressive. Okay, so the trick here is to do a touch and go on the water. In the real world, you'd be actually really surprised how long you can keep the tires in the water before you have to actually pull them out of the water, because obviously the body of water will want to suck you right in, and that's going to end terribly. I recommend flying the Icon if you prefer to do that type of landing. One of the biggest problems I'm going to have with this operation is getting close enough to the water without actually landing on the water. So I'm going to put myself nice and low, give myself just enough power. And I wish this thing had a radar altimeter because I can't feel the water. I don't feel the you get this little weird little pap, 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 pap noise, but it does not do it. I'm dangerously going to fly here. I'm going to switch to the third-person view. Oh, geez. Yeah. That ain't going to happen. So it looks like I tapped the water a couple times there, but I'm just going to be nice and gentle. Oh, boy, I'm glad it is not a windy day. If it was a windy day, this would basically be a no-go. I wonder if this is low enough to stay underneath enemy radar. Sometimes I wonder. Yeah, don't get the... Up we go. The cool thing is if we hang on the propeller, the engine will slow down. There it goes. Told ya. Oh, float down to my seat. That is really cool. Ugh, it just does not accelerate out of that, though. That's pretty cool. Again, this is pretty neat stuff. This is a pretty cool ultralight plane. I love its simplicity, but I don't love the fact that it doesn't have things like, an HSI or something like that on it. But again, that's not what this aircraft was designed to do. Let's go ahead and try something else while we're having some fun here. I'm going to go ahead and trim this aircraft out real quick. It's interesting when I teach students how to fly. It is always sort of amusing when they try to learn how trim works. And it's one of those things I tell them, even I still struggle with trim. And honestly, a flight simulator ain't the real thing. I've got it close, but not quite. Whoop! Overdid it. Just interesting, some World War II aircraft, and actually some modern aircraft, you actually could hit a situation where you couldn't trim them because you'd run out of trim. All right, that should do it right about... I'm not going to fitz with it any longer. I think I got it basically where I want it to be. Nice. Hands off. Nope, wants to pitch back up. But it does trim. It grooves, is usually the term. I'm kind of curious about this propeller, this little action here. All right, not bad. Not bad at all. So let's go ahead and take a look at our outside view. I'm just kind of curious to see how much fuel. We've only used 2% of our fuel. I also love the gigantic bush tires, and I think it's probably a good time to go ahead and find a nice, safe spot to land. So one thing I really like about this version of Flight Sim is I can just look around and be like, hey, that's where I would land if there was an emergency. So let's pick a spot. That's a little weird. I don't know why it's so slow. It might be intentional. It's like delayed almost. What do we got? There's a highway, but this thing has bush tires on it, so it'd be... Oh, that looks good. See that field right there? I like that one. Pull the nose up. Slap the flap lever. We've seen that in other aircraft before. And we're basically going to fall out of the sky like a parachute. Actually, I bet you I could do one of the... Hang on, let me try this. Can I do it? No. Ah, bummer. Nope, it won't let you do it. What I was trying to do basically is the Antonov AN2, you could basically pull back on the controls and land the thing as if you're in a parachute. It's awesome. All right, it looks pretty soft down there. I see a little copse of trees. Will probably come swinging in around the corner there. That's looking pretty good right there. I'm liking that little intersection. Get a little fast for our approach, but that doesn't bother me too much. Just a little bit more trim. Ooh, that looks a little bumpy when we get down. It's uphill. Not safe, not safe, not safe. One landing. Hey, we did it in one landing this time. Nice. Not bad. I like these ultralights are pretty cool. I got to spend more time experimenting with them, especially if we get them in VR. Hopefully this has been fun and a great way to look at these things. Hopefully going forward, I'll go ahead and create some new ideas as far as what to do with Flight Simulator 2020, as well as trying to improve the performance. Hopefully this helps you as far as deciding whether or not you want to pick it up or just kind of take a look at the different aircraft. Enjoy.